Anbernic keeps things minimalist, which I appreciate. No frills, just what you need to dive right into the action. What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, I appreciate you clicking on the video. Today we've got the Anbernic RG35XX on bench, courtesy of Anbernic themselves. Now this isn't just any retro gaming handheld, it's actually the first horizontal device that Anbernic has released in a little while that's in a budget price of under $70 of a list price. Now in this video we're going to do a full technical breakdown of the device and of course do some emulation testing so you know exactly what you can expect from this handheld. But first, let's unbox and explore a little. The box itself is very simple with an almost salmon colored box, device wireframe, and model information. They did do a neat golden outline of the device, which I don't think I've actually seen on any of their other boxes as well. Now as we slide open the box, we've got the RG35XX, which is just sitting right here waiting to be explored. Now we are going to set that aside for now and delay that urge for immediate gratification that I desperately want. Alongside it, we've got the essentials, a screen protector to keep things pristine, a manual that probably won't be read but is good to have, and a USB-C cable for charging. Anbernic keeps things minimalist, which I appreciate. No frills, just what you need to dive right into the action. Now to the console. First things grabbing my attention is the design. It's horizontal and looks very similar to many of the other horizontal emulation handhelds previously released by Anbernic, but also by other companies. The build quality feels surprisingly solid in hand. It has a fairly lightweight feel to it, but it doesn't feel cheap at all. And looking around the device, on the bottom we have dual firing stereo speakers as well as two TF card slots, one for the OS and the second to expand your game selection. The one sent to me only came with a preloaded 64GB card, so for the most part, that's what I intend to show off in this video. On the left side of the device we have our volume rocker, and on the right side we have our power and a reset button. Along the top we have our inline shoulder buttons, a function button, two USB-C ports, a mini HDMI out port, and a 3.5mm audio jack for more quiet and immersive gaming experiences. I mentioned the inline shoulder buttons a moment ago, which admittedly aren't my favorite style for these types of handhelds, but I do have to give credit to Anbernic because they did a good job with them. The L2 and R2 buttons are raised, so it's very easy to feel the difference between the buttons, and this style does make the form factor a little tighter and thus making the device more pocketable. Moving on to the controls of the device, the face buttons feel really good and are a great size. Like most of the Anbernic devices, they use a rubber membrane connection for the inputs, which give a true classic retro feel while playing. They are responsive, and during gameplay I had no noticeable input lag or delay on any of the games that I tested. There are two analog sticks for an expanded gaming experience. Now these sticks are Nintendo Switch style sticks, which is actually fairly common, especially with lower priced handhelds like this. What's nice about this is that they actually sit relatively low and aren't sitting much higher than the buttons themselves, keeping the whole device in line with a lower profile. Performance wise, I think they are fine, but this style of analog stick does leave some gaps in accuracy for some titles once you start looking at Dreamcast, PlayStation 1, and most notably Nintendo 64 titles. Now that said, the sticks are certainly good enough for what you can expect performance-wise out of the device. Finally, we're going to move on to the D-pad, and I actually have some mixed feelings about the D-pad. In most cases, the D-pad is snappy and responsive. It feels good for most of the games that I've played. However, I did notice it was fairly sensitive, especially when it comes to downward diagonal movements. Now you can see what I mean here with the built-in input tester and how the D-pad falsely inputs diagonals downward versus upwards. Now it wasn't game breaking by any stretch, and interestingly, this wasn't something I noticed with the previous RG35XX Plus handheld that I recently reviewed. Like I said, it's not a deal breaker, but you may want to keep that in mind if you like to play games that require very precise movement like Mega Man on the NES, or the Ghost and Goblins arcade title. Now let's go ahead and get technical. The RG35XX is actually, in terms of specifications, the exact same as the previous RG35XX Plus. It has a 3.5-inch IPS fully laminated display with a resolution of 640 by 480, making it an excellent choice for 8 and 16-bit era emulation. It's powered by the all-winner H700 quad-core ARM Cortex-A53 CPU, clocked in at 1.5 GHz, paired with a Mali G31 MP2 GPU with a clock speed of 650 MHz. With 1 GB of LPDDR4 RAM and 64 GB of included storage on the SD card they included, expandable via a secondary SD card, it's equipped to handle everything from pixel-perfect platformers to some low-level to mid-tier 3D titles. And the device comes equipped with Wi-Fi and Bluetooth support as well. Now these specs promise smooth gameplay across a broad spectrum of different emulators, and you can expect all of your favorite 8 and 16-bit consoles to run well with reasonably good performance on PS1 games. Things like Dreamcast and PSP will be playable, but you're gonna have to tinker a little bit, maybe reduce rendering resolution or add frame skip for certain titles, especially for the harder to run games. N64 games, which aren't present by default on the device, really doesn't run all that well, and as such I probably would say you want to avoid it if possible, but I will showcase a few titles in the demo section of the video that I added myself, so that way you can see there are some titles that will run okay. Now diving into the operating system, it's a custom Linux built tailored for very basic navigation and easy jump in gaming. It's straightforward, focusing on getting you into your favorite games with minimal fuss. The interface is clean, responsive, and it is intuitive, and is the same experience you'd get on their previous RG35XX devices or the Plus version of the same name. There is no flashy animations or complex menus. Everything is simple icons and a short title, which is fine, I guess. I don't want to bash the OS because it does exactly what it's supposed to do, which is totally fair. But we have seen so many other devices from so many other companies that give us a more visually pleasing menu, and to be honest, that's including Anbernic devices as well. So if nothing more, I'd say the UI is just a little bit boring. That's not necessarily bad, it's just true. Menu navigation is very straightforward with a game room section, a RetroArch game section, a favorites and a history section, a game search functionality, and then we have access to a settings section as well. The game room sections essentially allow you to launch the titles with standalone emulators where applicable. Now this is going to be ideal for PSP, PlayStation 1, and Nintendo DS specifically. Everything else more or less launches through RetroArch anyways, so you could use the RetroArch game section for those titles if you prefer. Favorites are as easy as hovering over the game that you like and then just simply pressing the start button to add or remove it from the favorites list. And history just simply displays the last 9 titles that you've played. Settings has everything from Wi-Fi and Bluetooth settings to dedicated RetroArch settings, screen brightness, and a little customization that can be done, like swapping out the icon artwork or the background to some of the other stock options. Moving on to the game section, Anbernic has loaded up the RG35XX on the SD card with thousands of games across over 30 different console emulators. While the absence of N64 games in general, and actually all Mario titles that might be for any other console, is a bit of a downer for some, the vast library still does offer a great selection for you to play right out of the box. Now it's a mixed bag of classics, hidden gems, and some shovelware, and everything kinda in between. But if your favorite game is not preloaded, adding it is super simple by accessing the SD card on your PC and dragging and dropping the games into the correct folder. Now we don't see obnoxious multi-region or multi-version duplicates, so finding something to play isn't a painful process like some other devices on the market. And for the most part, everything plays really, really well. And I say for the most part because I actually did find a number of titles that failed to launch out of the gate. Now this is super easy to fix by changing which RetroArch core is assigned to that title, but it is worth noting some games require a bit of trial and error to work, especially in the arcade game categories. Now, when you get all of your games to actually launch, the gameplay is really solid. The device handles a wide array of systems with ease, from the simplicity of 8-bit classics to the more complex demands of some PSP games with its emulation, although it is fairly limited. The screen's vibrant colors and sharp details make each of the games pop, and the speakers do sound pretty good as well. It's impressive how Anbernic has balanced performance and portability in this device. Now, don't get me wrong, this device runs this older stuff really well and does an okay job with Dreamcast, Nintendo DS, even some PSP games, but those more advanced consoles are a bonus you get from the device. Now, I'm going to go ahead and jump into some gameplay footage of assorted consoles and games so that way you can see for yourself. And I will include a little bit of N64 titles as promised for those who are interested in seeing how it performs on the device.
Trust me. Time bonus. I'm the man. Yo, Kevin! I don't want to die. My job.
Don't come. Don't come!
After spending some time with the RG35XX, I'm really digging the form factor and portability of the device, and it plays all my favorite retro arcade and console games really well, but being completely honest, I wouldn't buy this if I was after something powerful enough to run my favorite PSP or even Dreamcast games. It does an okay job for some of the titles, but there are better options out there for a few bucks more to get better gameplay experience on those consoles specifically. For PS1 and older consoles, this thing does an excellent job though. But that wraps up the deep dive into the Anbernic RG35XX. It's been a blast exploring what this device has to offer, and I hope this review helps you decide if it's a right addition for your gaming collection. Now, if you've got thoughts or questions or your own experiences on this product, please let's get a conversation going in the comment section down below. As always, I will leave some links in the description for you to pick one up for yourself or simply to learn a little bit more about it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell button so you don't miss any of my future videos. That is pretty much all I've got for you guys in this video. Thank you so very much for watching. I'll speak to you guys again real soon.